see. Do we have anything else? My supervisor has assigned me to work with someone who consistently relies on me to finish every project, and then they take credit for my work. Oh, the joys of corporate work. Yeah, I have already tried to address this with my boss and was shut down. What do you think I should do next? Well, my question is why did you start with addressing it with your boss? Like always start with the source. Because that when you have a situation and you skip the source of the situation and go somewhere else, you're gonna have more of a situation because when it comes up, the question's gonna be why you didn't bring that to me. Right. So my first feedback is that you should have started with the source, and that is the person that is your coworker. That you should be avoiding talking to your supervisor as the first line of action. It should be communicating with your colleague about this. So couple of things come to mind though. Um, this could actually be accurate in that this person is really relying on you to finish their work, or it could be a slightly off in your ability to actually assess what's going on. In that, it, in fact, they're not as much relying on you as much as it is that you are signing yourself up to be the superwoman or superman to always do the greatest work. And so you do all the work, and then them taking credit is a whole separate issue. So to me, it's two issues. One, where how did we get to the point where we're off balance and who's doing what work? Is it truly, in fact, that someone else is relying on you? Or is it that you're signing up to be the person who always gets stuff done? Because a lot of times we don't realize we're actually as much of, if not a majority of the problem than we realize. Um, that being said, though, if in fact the person is relying on you, then you still had a choice to set a boundary about what you were going to do or not do. And so if you consistently go ahead and finish work in an imbalanced way, knowing that, and that's in fact what's going on, then I'm going to challenge you about your lack of boundaries there. And I'm going to ask you, why is it that you continue to do that? Why did you continue to finish the work so many times? Why didn't you have this conversation sooner? And I'm going to tell you what your answer probably is, whether you realize it or not, whether it's why you didn't talk to them sooner, why you didn't talk to them at all, or why you went to your boss. And that is because you're trying to avoid conflict. And I can just tell you the majority of human beings are really not comfortable with conflict. But listen, conflict, I don't even like to use the word because it has like this negative connotation. All that conflict really is saying is that there's something we don't agree on. It's not beef. It's just we're not on the same page for whatever reason. It could just be that one of us just didn't know, right? But if you're running around, which a lot of people are, avoiding having conversations about those differences, then there's no way you're enjoying your life, because that's damn near I mean, there's no relationship with any other human. You're not going to have a moment where there isn't some difference there. And if you are never willing to bring those up, then you are probably the one taking the L, because either someone else is bringing it up, or worst case, you just are suffering because you're probably running around mad and sad and angry all the time because you feel like the world is shitting on you, and you just, are upset about the fact that all this stuff happens, and you don't have voice in it. But that's your choice to have voice. There's no scenario where you don't have voice unless you choose not to use your voice. Now, are there consequences for having voice? Absolutely. But I would say sign yourself up for the first boat out to being willing to take all the consequences for having a voice. Because when you do that, then you can really get to a really great life. Because if you're in a scenario where speaking up is going to be problematic to the point where you lose your job, or you lose your man, or you lose your relationship with your family, then you should be signing up to lose that shit as soon as possible. Because that would be a sign to me that something here ain't right. And I don't want to stay in this situation, because who wants to stay in a situation where it requires me to not speak up? And if I do, I'm going to pay serious consequence. So rather than trying to preserve that situation, I would argue that you need to expedite getting the hell out of it if that's what's going on. So probably a ton of stuff behind this. But again, to recap, number one, you shouldn't be moving forward with actions that then really signal to this person that it's okay for you to not do your work. Because if you've done this enough times, basically what you said with your behavior is that don't even worry about doing your work because I'll do it anyway. So you trained them that that was okay, right? So rather than do that, we should have been speaking to them early on. And now you don't come through like, listen, ma, you don't start there. Hopefully we don't get there, but you definitely don't start there. It's like, hey, listen, trying to figure out, like, just want to make sure, because I have a lot on my plate. I know you do too, right? But let's maybe go through our task list together and see like who's better at what, and maybe we can work together to figure out how we can work. I'm not going to start off by saying, hey, I don't appreciate you don't do shit. I want to just be more subtle with it and say like how let's kind of like work together, to see like, because I want to be efficient. I know you want to feel both want to look good. Yeah, because then I didn't even address the take credit for it. I kind of feel like if you kept doing that, you almost set yourself up for it. But again, this is real simple. Call that shit out. I mean, call it out in a way where it's professional, right? But you ease into stuff like that. It's just like, oh, I can't believe you just said that. It's like, oh yeah, you were helpful, and I really appreciated the opportunity to be able to get blah 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 done as well, right? So you find ways to be subtle. This is all emotional intelligence. If you've done emotional intelligence work with me, I go into a lot of this with that. But to me, I hear a lot of challenge with boundaries and not being able to check in and early on. People, don't be waiting. Y'all like get all nervous and then you don't say shit, and then you know what happens? This shit gets worse because you take so long to say something. Now there's like extra problems, and any suggestions I would give for how you could handle it are now even not even leverageable because it's become a whole animal because you decided to go 6 months to a year sitting in this situation. And so now it's like it's not that simple to address anymore, right? And so this is why I believe in speaking up. I mean, you don't need to speak up all the time about every little thing because then you're just annoying. But practicing having voice as a lifestyle is important. And when you have voice, guess what? People start to know you are not the one to fuck with, right? So you train people. You train people on how to treat you. So when you don't say nothing, you train people that you're not the one that's going to say anything so they can do whatever they want, treat you however you want because you ain't going to say nothing. When you're the type of person who's very, not like nitpicky, but your voice is known, right? You perform well, but you also, have a voice. Then people know like, oh yeah, that's so people are showing up to you the way you've trained them to. So y'all know if you're talking to me, we can always talk about what somebody else is doing wrong, but I'm going to always say, what is it that you can be doing different? Because at the end of the day, there's only one person you control, and that's you, right? And so you should be the very best in the world at controlling yourself and making sure that you're on point with training people, right? So that you don't have to come through and pull up on people because they already know that's just really not, they don't want the smoke, right?